Legacy. It's a word we all know. It's what we leave behind, our impact on others, the mark we make on the world. Well, what if legacy isn't just about what we leave? What if the greatest impact isn't in what comes after us, but in how we live right now? Living a legacy means recognizing that our mission, our values, and our purpose are not just future aspirations, they are our present realities. It's about showing up every day with intention, with service, with excellence, and understanding that what we do today echoes far beyond us. You're about to hear from two incredible women who are doing just that. Though the most meaningful chapters of their professional lives came after they were both 60, they seized the moment to create a legacy that all of us experience every single day. Thank you for joining us today for a special Best Never Rest with Mo Anderson and Kay Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Kay Evans. Hey, do us a favor. Tell us, where were you born?
I was born in Louisiana.
In Louisiana.
Yes,
right?
I was. And I was born in North Louisiana and then moved soon to South Louisiana. And if you know anything about Louisiana, it is as different as night and day in North Louisiana and South Louisiana. South Louisiana is where they have all the great food, where they have a lot of parties, where they, it's blowout good. And that's where we moved. And can I tell a story about that?
Absolutely. That's why we're here.
Okay. Well, I had some experiences that related when I moved there to Opelousas, Louisiana. I don't know if any of you ever heard of it. It's a great town. But I was very young, and I was just starting school. So I'm giving you this because if you ever want to, to gather relationships, because it is relationships, you might can try this. I had an older brother and sister in high school, and they told me that the food in the cafeteria was horrible. And so I announced first grade to my mother that I would not be eating in the school cafeteria. And she said, why? And I said, Lena and Buddy said, it's terrible. She said, well, I'm not getting up in the morning and fixing your breakfast and fixing your lunch. And my daddy said, there's a deli bakery right across the street from the school. Why don't I open her a charge account? And she can charge her lunch, and I'll go by once a month to, and pay the bill. And Mother said, well, it sounds like a great idea. Well, I needed to learn new friends and make relationships in a hurry.
I thought you were going to say that's when Live Luxury was born.
That's what.
Yeah,
exactly.
The seed was planted, right?
But at any rate, when I invited my entire class for the morning recess for donuts.
Man, I'll tell you what.
And I said, charge it to my daddy.
So, generally speaking, when I meet somebody that's an exceptional and has lived an exceptional life, there's usually a voice or two that have poured into them early on.
Yeah.
And those lessons that they've taken from those voices, they travel with them basically the rest of life. Is mom, dad, when you were growing up, who is the most influential voice, Kay, in your life?
Actually, my mom, probably because she had a great career, and she was in sales, and she had a following like you wouldn't believe, like some of these people here have in the real estate and in the mortgage.
You kind of got a following too, Cab.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I just kind of watched her, and she was unusual. Now I'm in Keller Williams and love it because we do lead generation and we do, things like that. And my mother was doing lead generation when, way back there when. And how she did it was whenever the store was not busy, she was on the phone calling some of her past customers and saying, hey, I've got coffee on, come on down and have coffee with me. And they would come down, and $300 later, they would walk out with clothes, because she did a boutique. She worked in a boutique. So that's the way she did it. And then she took it a little step farther. There were 2 high schools in Opelousas, Catholic high school and public high school. And when they announced the homecoming court, my mother was on the phone calling the mothers of all the girls on the homecoming court and calling their mothers. And she would say, hey, this is Lily at Mademoiselle. How about that? She worked at Mademoiselle. She said, I heard Sally just got elected to the homecoming court. I know exactly the clothes she needs. Can you come on down and we'll pick them out? Exactly. And I mean, every store in town tried to hire her. Really, no joke. So I kind of listened, to what my mother said.
Well, you were smart to do so.
Yeah. Right. Well, can I finish that story I started before? That in the morning I bought them donuts. In the afternoon I took them back and we had cinnamon rolls. And so at the end of the month when my father goes to pay the bill, he has a heart attack almost. And then he goes home that night and we're sitting there and my dad said to Mother, do you know what Kay did with her charge account at the bakery? And she said, what? He said, she brought her whole class donuts in the morning and cinnamon rolls in the afternoon. And my mother said, you're lucky she didn't buy their lunch. But I'm giving you that hint because honestly, that's almost the same way. My next question you had here is, how did you decide to open Keller Williams? That's the same technique I used. My husband is a great Cajun chef, and we started out inviting real estate agents to our home for Cajun lunch, and we had 100% acceptance. Who's going to turn that down, really? So you see, I'm giving you a great tip this morning. This is how you do it. If you need relationships, treat them to lunch or donuts or cinnamon rolls or whatever. So.
Simple, but brilliant, right? So you just taught us an awful lot here. All of our salespeople in the room, I'm like, did you get that? Okay, that was pretty simple.
Of course, I got my credit cut off then. Yeah, I did. And I used to teach finance for the Real Estate Commission, and I always announced that I'm the first person you'll meet probably who got their credit cut off in the first grade.
Do you have like this playbook for relationships? Like if you were to tell people, hey, this is how you get along best with people, is it the cinnamon rolls? Is that what it is? Can we get back to the cinnamon rolls here?
Well, that helps. But when I'm amazed in our industry when co-op agents don't get along, when one co-op agent gives another one a hard time and makes it tough to get to the closing table, I'm amazed. That's your best. I mean, those are relationships. They do the same thing that you do. You ought to make the transaction go as smoothly. And as a matter of fact, your fiduciary responsibility, see, I still...
The teacher again.
That your fiduciary responsibility is to get to the closing table once you get something under contract, and you don't do it by making it difficult and being snobby with the other agents. So you've got a world of relationships, and it's as simple as being nice. Now, you're going to run into somebody who's going to tell you a horrible story of me chewing them out about something. It's probably true. But they needed it. They were just not doing it right. But, and relationships is exactly what I said a while ago. Get out and get out of your comfort zone and meet people. Don't stay at home and rely on the same clientele that you had for years and years and years. Get out and create new clientele and new people. I like to win. I don't know if y'all do. I do love to win. And I will say that came from my mom, too. She liked to win, too. If I ever told her I wanted to do something, she said, okay, well, let's find someone who can teach you how. She would not let me go out there and bumble my way through things. She wanted me to get professional help so that I could do it to the maximum. And I honestly believe, this is so simple to me, so simple. Whatever job you have, if you're on the ALC in your office or in the mortgage company, you have a committee or something, whatever, I call that a stage. Whenever you're on that stage, do it to the absolutely best of your ability, because someone is watching and someone is going to tell someone that you did it that way. So when they start looking for someone, that's who they're going to call. And as you go, your stage gets bigger. Your stage gets much bigger because you get bigger opportunities. When I first came here, I told the lady I worked for as a broker did not want me to join. This is going to go against people. She didn't want me to be. I managed an office up in Gwinnett, and she told me I could not join the board of realtors. And I'm like, okay, you want to tell me why? She said, it's just going to take up too much of your time. And I said, not if I let it. So what I did is I did not listen to her. Does that surprise you? I joined, and they put me on a membership committee, and I had to go to every office in Gwinnett County to check their licenses in their office against the ones they had in their drawer. I learned everybody in Gwinnett County Board of Realtors then, because I did that, and the rest of my committee took 4 weeks to get theirs done. I did it in a week. They told somebody. I had that reputation. Do you know she did that in a week? She did that. That was a platform. Whatever your platform is, no matter whether you like it or not, you do it to the maximum.
That's like a nugget of wisdom for all of us, right? Because everyone's always thinking about the next thing and the next thing instead of just doing the thing that you're doing the best way possible. Let's talk about leadership, which seems to be then a perfect time for us to introduce our other guest.
Yeah.
You can't talk about leadership, in my opinion, without talking about John Maxwell, the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time in terms of leadership. He's the voice of our generation on it. And one of his most famous quotes is, "The leadership's about influence, nothing more, nothing less." And John knows, he definitely does, what the best leaders do, and he knows what and who the best leaders are. So rather than me introducing our next guest, why don't we let John do that?
Hey, John Maxwell here to Pat Flood, my dear friend, and of course you, Mo Anderson, and all the people that are gathered together with you. I just wanted to say hi for a moment and share with all of you how much I care for and love and respect Mo Anderson. She's an incredible lady leader. In fact, my book, High Road Leadership, Bringing People Together in a World That Divides, I dedicated it to Mo. Pat, you're a leader of leaders. We've been together and done leadership for a lot of years. I respect you so much. By the way, you're a high road leader too. Just, you were on the list, Pat, but to be honest with you, Mo just topped everybody, including myself, and that's why I dedicated you. So you all have a good day. And Pat, I respect you and love you so much. And Mo Anderson, you're the best. Much love.
We all know she's a living legacy. She's a visionary. She's an amazing servant leader. And also, I found out she's the Velvet Hammer. Last night was a treat because she explained to me the Velvet Hammer model. It was fascinating. So you're one of a kind. The truth is, everybody here is as well. Everyone's one of a kind, and everyone can live and leave your own legacy. It won't be Kay's and it won't be Mo's. But what I think they're both able to do for us is set examples for us for how we can maximize our own. After we named the program, believe it or not, Living a Legacy, I went back and I read the inside cover of Mo's book and thought it was an interesting definition of success. She penned in the book that she defines the legacy she wants to live and leave. That's like destination of success, and it's destination of my legacy. What do I want it to be? And you basically ordain it before it actually happens. And she said to give, to care, and to share, right?
Right.
So welcome. You're amazing. Thank you for dinner last night. One more time. I didn't even know I was in the running for the High Road Leader opportunity, but I'm sure I came way down the list at some point.
Well, it was certainly a shock to me, and I was so honored and so surprised.
Let's start at the beginning. Your story is so cool. A lot of you may have heard it in the past, and if you have, it's worth hearing again. But where were you born? Tell us about that early.
I was born on a farm near Ames, Oklahoma, a town of maybe 500. And that's where I was born.
And tell us a little bit about the influences in your life early on. Mom, dad, environment.
The three greatest lessons probably that I learned were from my parents. One from my mother, two from my dad.
Fire away. Tell us what those lessons are, please.
Lesson number one occurred when I was in the 4th grade. I came home on the school bus, walked in the house, sat on our pitiful sofa with the springs broken and peering through the fabric. And my mother sat me down and she said, "I want to talk to you." And then she proceeded to tell me that I needed, as a 4th grader, to absolutely be on every single committee that I could be on.
ALC and all.
Well, I hadn't ever heard of ALC in the 4th grade. And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I believe that you have some God-given leadership skills.
Wow.
And if you'll serve on the committee, it'll give you an opportunity to practice your leadership." And she said, "In fact, you should try to be the chairman of every committee." Because she knew how bossy I was.
And this is in 4th grade, right?
I'm in the 4th grade. And then she explained to me that if I would do that in grade school, junior high, and high school, by the time I graduated from high school, I would have developed some pretty strong leadership skills. And she said, "You'll be ahead of everybody
Wow.
if you'll do that." So I did that and tried to be the one that got to pick the people on my softball team. And it was in an age or an era where women were only supposed to be nurses, teachers, or secretaries. So I look at my little great-granddaughter, and she's as bossy as she can be. And I think, oh my goodness, she's going to be a great
old
leader
is she?
someday. She is 4.
Yeah. Is she on any committees yet?
Not yet. But I'll tell her at the right time.
The 2 lessons Dad taught you.
Lesson number 1 was, hun, you can do anything you want to do when you grow up if you'll just work hard. Now, I wish he would have said, if you'll work smart. But I began, after hearing it probably 1,000 times as a child, I began to believe it. When he first told me the first 999 times, I didn't necessarily believe it. But I grew into believing it.
Amazing.
And look at my life.
He was right.
The second lesson was probably the most important one. Because you see, as a child at about, I don't know, age 8 or 9, maybe 10, I've really forgotten, I was sick and tired of wearing shoes with holes in them. I was really tired of having all my clothes be made out of feed sacks. I wanted store-bought fabric. And I remember as a child, I prayed one night and I said, when I grow up, Lord, I want to make more money than I need. Because as a child, I never ever got to give a gift to anyone, including my parents. If I did give a gift, it had to be something homemade, and I'm not very arts and crafty. I'm pretty poor at that skill. And I so wanted to be able to give people gifts or give them money if they needed it or whatever, and I could never do it. And I had to wait until I was probably in my late 60s before I ever had more money than I needed.
Been pretty good since then, huh?
It's been real good since then. Because Keller Williams changed my life, not only personally, but also financially, which leads me to the story about my father. We were in our decrepit, pitiful car. It was a 1936 Ford. We stopped at the Carnegie Library in Enid, Oklahoma. And that's where we were able to check out books because we couldn't afford to buy books. We had been to the feed sack store, and he allowed me to choose the feed sacks. So now we were at the library, but we didn't go in. We stayed on the kind of the porch level of this beautiful old building called the Carnegie Library. Well, it wasn't too old. It was built after the war, after World War II. And so he stood there, and he, who had an 8th grade education, taught me a great lesson. He said, I want to tell you about this library and the man who built it. He was Andrew Carnegie. He grew up in poverty. He was poor like we are. He began to be wealthy when he became an adult because he invested in steel. And he owned a steel mill and became very, very, very wealthy. He was a controversial figure, my father said, but he wanted to give away all of his money before he died, and he, in his older age, had become quite ill, knew that it was probably the end. So the first thing he did was take care of his family. So he set up wills and trusts and all of that to care for his family. He had $350 million left over. He assembled a team. Now remember, $350 million back in 1917 would be equivalent to about $3 billion today. And so he assembled a team and made the decision that he would build libraries in the smaller cities of the United States, all across our nation. And Enid, Oklahoma was blessed to be able to receive that gift. So his team paid for the land. They had the buildings, these gorgeous buildings built. He bought the books, he hired the staff, they trained the staff, and at the end of 12 months, then that facility was given to the city of Enid, and it became their responsibility. He did this all over the United States. My father looked at me and he said, let me first say that when you grow up in poverty, you have really weird ideas about money. I just knew I wanted it more than I needed, more money than I needed. He looked at me eyeball to eyeball and said, "Hon, I always want you to respect the wealthy because the wealthy usually give back."
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
Now that freed me for it to be okay to want money. Not for the money, but so I could give gifts to people.
Oh, goodness gracious. We should invite both of you here to give us nuggets of wisdom. Oh, we did.
I appreciate that.
Listen, if we've got children out in the crowd, if you got children, these are like those powerful messages and voices that are telling, showing, okay, and telling mom and dad and inspiring these. We get so busy in the world with phones and our careers and everything else that we sometimes miss out on doing the simple things in life. So you got an amazing track record as well in relationships. I thought when I asked Kay, how long have you been married? She goes, 65 years. I'm like, no one could top that. Mo's like, yes, I can.
Well, I'm older.
Not that we were competing last night. She goes, I'm 67, right?
No, I'm going to be 88 my next birthday on Red Day. If it falls on Red Day, I'll be 88. And Kay's younger than me.
You know-
I've been married longer.
Will you do me a favor?
67 years.
67 years.
I've been married.
When she,
Going on 68.
you were so transparent and honest last night about your marriage to Richard. Will you tell? Are you comfortable telling everyone what you told me last night?
Sure I am. I think we've all learned in marriage that when God created that sacred institution, He designed it so that opposites would attract. Would many of you agree? Yes. Well, Richard and I are very opposite. I can buy a car in 5 minutes by picking up the phone and telling the car dealer what I want. And I said, make sure it has all the stuff on it and deliver it to me tomorrow. Well, Richard said he needed a new car. And I want you to know, 12 years later, he got it. For 12 years, he read Consumer Report. If I want to go to a movie, I know now that I need to ask him 2 weeks in advance because his answer will be, let me think about it. And if you don't think that kind of thing did not cause friction in the marriage, you're out of your mind. There were times when I wanted to kill him. There were times when I wanted to hit him. It was so frustrating because Everything about him was totally different than me. I respected him so much. I loved him so much, but we were totally different. Now, in marriage, you experience maybe 18 months of lust.
Thank you for telling him everything you told me last night.
And then you experience reality. And I'm going, why did I marry this man? But there are so many people who quit 2 minutes before they find the gold. And I had made a determination when I said those vows in a church before the Lord God that I would never, ever, ever dissolve my marriage. Now, I couldn't control what he might want to do, and I'm sure he wanted to dissolve it. But I finally got it. And I now understand, it took me probably 70 years to really get it, 65 maybe. But what I understand now is the reason that he causes opposites to attract is because you need the opposite to make you a complete person. And I get that now. And now, instead of half hating him almost every day, I cherish him every day. And I wouldn't trade the last 30 years or so for anything, because I finally understood the spiritual lesson in the Institute of Marriage. We all read in Scripture that Jesus told his disciples it would be easier if you don't get married, is what he told them. Well, boy, that's the truth. But having the opposite of what you are makes you better, and it completes you. I go too fast, he slows me down. I speak too boldly, he tells me it embarrasses him, so I try not to embarrass him when I'm around him. When I'm not around him, I speak boldly. Do you get my point?
I do.
And so many times, because the other one wants out, there is nothing you can do, because you may want to just work and work and work to fix it, or work and work and work to resolve it and make it work well, but you can never control another person. And so many people have lost a spouse because the other one wanted out. I didn't want out. I just wanted to change him. And I learned that when God makes your DNA, you're just who you are. And when I began to accept him as a gift from God, it changed me.
Wow. So one of the gifts that we have to give you is this video. And we're welcome to edit a little bit of the Richard story if you'd like to. So if Richard sees it, okay, he sees the richest part of it. I just thought it was so cool that you were so comfortable being so absolutely vulnerable and honest and truthful with yourself and with us, because it didn't make me uncomfortable at all. By the way, my wife, once like 5 years ago, we're married 35 years, she said, we need to go to CBS. I said, what's, no, I know we're 40 now, but about 5 years ago. But I said, what do you got to get at CVS? She said, my prescription, the pill that, what's the name of it? Do not kill your husband pill. I was like, we definitely need to go and get that, okay? We definitely. So apparently, as
I didn't know that pill existed, or I would have gotten it.
by the way, now you know how great marriages work, right? Ah, goodness gracious. So, John, you can't say anymore and you can't do anymore. Oh my God, you're the CEO of the biggest real estate company on the planet. And so leadership, your parents were right when they told you early on there's something that God deposited in you. I've been asked in the past, are leaders born or bred? And I've always had the same answer. They're born. They're not better. They just have a gift. And then they decide what to do to follow that gift, like what principles are going to drive that gift. We've seen leaders around the world that are the worst leaders, but they're still leaders. And then we've seen the very exceptional and the best, and you both are in that club, obviously. Right.
Well, the first thing that I had to learn was the importance of standards, because when you know what your standards are, decisions are easy. And when you can affiliate with like-minded people, you often have the same standards. And that makes for a powerful group. So once I really understood that, and I learned that through teaching music in a public school for 14 years before. I'm a former CEO that's never had a business class in her life, which that says a lot about Gary Keller. I mean, I was 57 years old when he asked me to be his CEO and his partner. I own stock in the national company. That's pretty amazing. A woman who is 57 and never had a business class in her life. But I taught in a school where the children were on the other side of the tracks. And they grew up in poverty. And I knew that I wouldn't give them an inch. I wouldn't give them sympathy. I'd been there. I knew what it was like. And I thought, if I can get them to experience what it feels like to do something really, really well, that will lift them up. And what I learned through my teaching experience was the importance of standards. And I'm talking about standards for everything. I'm talking about standards that you document in a standards manual, and then you take it to the Agent Leadership Council and you say, you may want to tweak this. Help me get it right. And then after the ALC blesses it and tweaks it and adds their comments, this is where you have your mandatory meeting and you share your standards. Because if you haven't done that, you don't know if your people are like-minded. I'm always reminded of when Yale University used to ask me to be present when they taught the piece that Stanford University wrote about our culture in our company, because I went there, I think, about 8 years in a row, if I remember right. Their first question would always be, doesn't that God, family, and business thing hurt you? And I would say, I can't believe a farm girl from Oklahoma is going to be able to teach you something. I just can't believe it. So get a piece of paper out, get a pencil out, and write this sucker down. And they would. These MBA students at Yale that I felt so intimidated by. And I said, that little phrase is a magnet that draws people to us. And when they come, we're different in color, we're different in nationality, we're different politically, we're different in religion, but there's something about that statement that draws people to us, even when they're Hindus, they're Buddhists, they're Jewish, whatever. And of course, my dream has been to have a mixture of everybody and prove to the world that we can love each other and have each other's backs and make a lot of money.
Amen.
So I became confident by having these standards. Then the model developed after that, when I really nailed it in terms of in a collaborative atmosphere, in a collaborative spirit of coming together on the standards, putting them in the standards book, making them a part of our local P&G manual. Then I finally got it in my head what the model is. The model is what I call the sandwich method, and it's in my book. I use it all the time. I use it every time there's conflict, and it always works. And when they don't respond lovely, it still works. But 95% of the time, they will respond in a lovely manner. And that is, the sandwich has bread on the top, bread on the bottom, and something in the middle. And I call it love, the dagger, and then more love. And one time I had somebody say to me, Mo, I think you're getting on me, but I'm not sure. I've had a lot of that kind of response, because when they know, and you have to mean it. If you're fake, they catch on in a half a second. But if you can express yourself in a way that truly touches their heart, they receive it when I say, however, you've been late for 6 times to the Agent Leadership Council, and that is unacceptable. So I have a question. Will you commit to me that you will take the high road and never be late again unless you have a car wreck, which we pray you won't have? Because I will ask you to step down. And then they always say, yes, I'll really try. No, I don't want the word try. I want a commitment that you will do this. And they receive it, and then you look at them and you smile and you say, I knew you'd take that high road, and then I give them the biggest hug they've ever had in their life. And they go and they're not late anymore. Or they'll go and stop doing it, what it was that I said, that is unacceptable behavior.
There's been a ton of books written on leadership. None of them name the sandwich, okay?
None of them name the sandwich.
Think, no, when you deal with people, they have to feel, at a leader level,
loved.
They have to feel loved.
They do.
But then you have to tell them the truth about what they can do to actually get better. We all know this. If you're a parent, that's what you do. And I hope and pray that all of us, all of us, leave today further defining success in our lives so we can live our richest and best lives, and that we live a legacy and leave it with the people that we love the most, that are sharing life with us, because those treasures that you learned early on in life, they're still traveling. They just showed up here again today. So thank you to your parents and everything else. And I just want to tell you that become the best and never rest. So I'm going to wish all of you the pursuit in 2025, and God bless you. Thank you for being here today. wow, I will never look at a sandwich the same way again. We often think of legacy as something distant, a story told after we're gone. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that the true legacy is built in real time through the choices we make and the lives we touch every single day. Living a legacy means embracing the responsibility of impact, being intentional, serving others, and committing to something greater than ourselves. It's not about waiting for recognition or a distant milestone. It's about taking action today. So as we close, ask yourself, how will you live your legacy? How will you make your life count today? Because the most powerful legacies aren't just remembered, they are lived. Best is waiting. Meet you there.